Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Thank you guys so much for joining us here once again today for this live. And I see we have several people already in the chat room. So good to see you guys.
It's wonderful to see you guys. Like my favorite part of the day to connect with some sanity. Good morning, Scott Moore. Good morning. That's another Scott. Good morning, Andrew.
And we got three Scots in the house right now.
Wow, that's awesome. I love number 3. I'm a 33 life path, so it's my favorite number.
33. Look at that. And you're bringing up that number 33. And
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about 33 and a lot of other things like that. There's a lot going on out there in the world. Actually, it does look like, you could say the world's on fire, or just like there's just chaos everywhere. It looks so chaotic out there.
All the world's a stage, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And it's a play. and there's a script running. And, I really do think that's the case. There is a script running. I think everything is just going along, at least partly according to the plans of some.
Yeah, absolutely. And you better play your part or you're going to get in trouble. You better play along or you're not going to have a job. You better play along or bad things could happen to you.
Yeah, as we... Okay, yeah. Remember the 10th of December. That was... There's so many good movies out there. Cindy had never seen The Matrix, so we saw just the first one. And I thought the second one was probably the most fun. It was like a nonstop roller coaster ride. And then the third one really disappointed so many people. It was definitely a statement, kind of like a Buddhist statement when you get down to it. And then, talking about these other great movies out there that have given us perhaps clues as to everything really going on. Hey, it's showing 33 watching. So there you go again with the 33.
Magic number. I know. I love it. It's my favorite.
So let's see. Where are we going to start here? Well, this is out of Zero Hedge, and it's authored by Patrick Buchanan, who's very conservative. He was part of the Nixon regime, and he has his own viewpoints. Of course, he's in the Matrix, but yet so many people are, and they really are, and they take one side. Unfortunately, as long as people are taking one side, we're not going to get the majority of people out of the hands of the puppet masters, because both sides are completely controlled by these puppet masters. But nevertheless, there's a lot of things he touches on in this article which are very interesting, and the title, What's Behind Our World on Fire? And so it touches on the California fires, of course, 3 years in a row now. But there's a lot of different fires going on all around the globe right now. And as it says here, so too there appears to be a multiplicity of causes, apparent multiplicity of causes, igniting and fueling the protests and the riots that we're seeing sweeping capital cities across the world right now. We talk about the Yellow Vest protests. They were set off by fuel price hikes, which were swiftly rescinded. And it's still going on. It's been a year now. We have riots in Chile. They were started to oppose a small hike in train and subway fares. In a country with the highest per capita income and least inequality of all of Latin America, yet still the protesters, were out there, and they did force the government to capitulate and write a new constitution. Bolivia's uprising was over an election supposedly stolen by a longtime president, Evo Morales, who fled to Mexico to be welcomed by the foreign minister. Hong Kong, obviously, that's a big one. Another one that we're watching right now. And that one got pretty violent. Molotov cocktails, slingshots, bows and arrows. And, they really did toast some of the military and policing vehicles that were there as well. And now the military is there as well. And, the question here is, if Hong Kong can resist mighty China for half a year, imagine what Taiwan, with 3 times Hong Kong's population, a significant military force, and 100 miles of water between the island and the mainland could do to resist the ruling party of President for Life Xi Jinping. And in Baghdad, protests went violent early, and hundreds are now dead. And then we have also, of course, the Iranian protests going on. I mean, we could keep, pulling out one after another after another. Yeah, I wonder how many people are surprised that we don't have massive protests underway here in the U.S. And, you see that we are a divided world. We're so divided, which is so sad. India's Hindu majority of 1 billion seeks suppression of the Muslim minority. And then you have secular Chinese putting the Muslim Uyghurs and Kazakhs in concentration camps by the thousands to root out their birth loyalties and convert them to their Marxist nationalists. And Han Chinese are moving into Tibet and Xinjiang to swamp indigenous populations. It's just everywhere we look. Spain, right? Spain as well. You have a portion of Spain that wants to leave, Catalan, and Spain's saying no. And Americans are not at actual war with one another, but our divisions are as wide and as deep as they've been since the 60s, if not since the Civil War. And I think that we're set up to be, in a spot that's going to blow away the 60s. And maybe that comes around that 2024 timeline. Perhaps that's when we're going to be seeing all this tremendous true chaos. And so we see here the Freemasons' motto, order out of chaos, ordo ab chao. Government is creating the chaos so it can impose its definition of Orwellian order with public approval. So what do you guys think about that? What do you think about that?
Well, I think they want to create the problems so they can come galloping in on their white horse with the solution, problem solution. That's just how it's been. It's like this ongoing pattern that they keep doing, and it works because we let it. I hate it.
Okay, Glenn says all governments try to control its population, and that's sad, and that's true. It's completely true. Unfortunately, because government is supposed to be for the people, and it's not. And that's what we're seeing all over the globe, and people are recognizing that. And Concrete Angel says, I think this is BS. And if you're talking about the restrictions and the power that the governments are wielding, then yeah, it is. And there is most definitely an uprising going on now. If you look at your history really closely and look past all the stuff we're sold, then you see that perhaps there is a great architect going on orchestrating this. And let me jump over here real quick because this is out of RT. There was a fear-mongering simulation that predicts there's going to be 32 dead, 200 wounded on election day in 2020. And so, this is talking about that. There's all this fear-mongering always going on. And I don't want to ever fear-monger. And you guys know that I don't really take a side when it comes to I'm not on the left, I'm not on the right, because I feel completely that both of them are under the control of these real puppet masters. And they play us against each other. And I've looked at a lot of the channels that take a side. And the channels that take a side are not getting, they're really not getting put down like some of the other ones. They're trying to show that it's all a matrix. And, their views are up. And they're actually able to even talk about topics like the V word, which you guys know, VAC, and it ends with an E. But I was shocked to see a channel talking about this and not saying that everybody should go ahead and get it either. Yet they were not demonetized, and that's an automatic demonetization. But, however, they were extremely in the matrix, being that they were very pro the current regime and very, very much conservative. And everybody feels like their side is getting censored, their side's getting attacked, persecuted. But from what I see, if you're in the matrix and you're picking a side and you're creating that loosh, that negative energy that these beings feed off of, and you're feeding into the frenzy, and all this is, pointing us into a much greater chaos to come, then they're okay with it. Fear-mongering is fine, because fear-mongering is part of the matrix. It's when you point out that we're being separated and we need to really have unity, then, it's a totally different thing. Then, that's a real threat. If you get people to get out of the matrix and, try to bypass the system, get out of the system, that's the real danger to the system. As long as we stay, in that, in the mindset and the emotional base where we're ready to attack the others. So, if you're a liberal and the conservatives are hammering, you react emotionally and you attack back. That's what they want. And vice versa. If you're conservative and you feel like you're getting impinged on, then you attack back. And, me personally, I'm more of a libertarian mindset, which is I feel like government should never impose its will on anybody, period. Because the government's just there to kind of mitigate in so many ways issues. But again, it's about being of the people for the people. And that's what people are recognizing around the globe. People are waking up at the same time. Perhaps they're being woke up on purpose in certain ways, and things are being done to stoke fires. So here again, you see ordo ab chaos. Yeah, order out of chaos.
Thank you so much, Idaho and Chen. I'm from Idaho, North Idaho. First of my free for you and for the missus. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We really truly appreciate the super chat. I told Cindy we might as well not even try to monetize this, because anytime you do any of these subjects, we always get demonetized, and then they take 24 hours to look at it, and then they say, nope, it's not suitable. So, we truly appreciate it, because it's really things like that and support on Patreon that's keeping us going at this moment. And, we're actually, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do long term, because they've so restricted things on this venue that we're looking at our future, as far as how do we keep getting the word out. And there are other ways of getting the word out, but it's not, it doesn't have the ads and stuff, so you can't basically make a living doing it. So we're talking about how do we keep getting the word out without having to shift our focus so much, and still dedicating so much time to it every day, which is basically almost every waking hour when you get down to it. So, this is, as you see here, a seal, and it's Scottish Rite. So we're talking Freemasonry, because really, there are Democratic Freemasons. There are Republican Freemasons. They're infiltrated in all of this. And it's not just picking on the Freemasons, because so many of them at the lower levels think they're doing something that's wonderful and beautiful, and they're helping civilization. It's only when you get to the upper levels that you start to see the power play. Perhaps some recognize it way before that. But here, you look at it, 33, it's sticking out. Now there's 33 vertebrae in the human body. And as we were talking about the skull and bones yesterday, there's 22.
Yeah, there's 22 skulls, or 22 bones in the human skull.
Yeah. So, all these things signify things, and they understand this, and they laugh at the masses that look at things in such a literalistic way without understanding the symbology that's behind everything. So we have to see the symbology that's behind. Out of many, one. And, unity is what we want. We want unity, but we don't want the type of unity that they have given us, which is basically under their thumb, under their control, under the control of a system that constantly keeps us, against each other. And many know and recognize New World Order right down there, Novus Ordo Seclorum, New World Order, and the date 1776. So we're brought up to be so patriotic about our country. And really, the ideals that it was founded on were enlightened ideals compared to what we've had in the past, at least in this go-round, with the kingship and the royalty. But in reality, is the Senate not royalty? And aren't there still kings and queens around? And it's kind of ridiculous when you look at it. And so this is the Great Seal, and this gives you the origin and meaning of the motto above the eye of providence, the eye of God. Or is it representing the third eye that's awakened in certain individuals as well? So you see a pyramid unfinished, in the zenith, an eye in a triangle surrounded with a glory proper. Over the eye, the words annuit coeptus. And they explained the meaning in conjunction with the eye of providence. In a triangle surrounded by golden rays of light in the zenith of an unfinished pyramid. And basically it's supposed to be that this is a blessed by providence venture. And one of the videos I'm going to do upcoming is going to be all about the wars that the US has been in. And I grew up too thinking that we're the greatest country in the world and nobody's like us. We are the best of everything, and that's what we're told, and that's what we're sold, and that's what we're programmed with. And but really, what is the history when we look at it? And perhaps this is just another revision of the Roman Empire, and really under the control of the same beings, going all the way back through bloodlines that it would blow you away. So many of the leaders of the American Revolution felt that Providence had often intervened to enable them to achieve independence from Great Britain, and particularly 33rd degree Mason George Washington, and as we talked about Ben Franklin and so many of these guys, of course we have favorable opinions of them, and yet they were part of these secret societies. And when we see the French Revolution as well, there were forces that brought that about as well. And so it's really interesting. And for you guys that want to go deep, here's 2 PDFs onto all the rituals of the Masonic Lodge. And there's 2 big PDFs here, 2 volumes, 232 pages on one, and 210 on the other, for any that want to go digging deep into the rituals and the symbology. And perhaps we'll pick that apart at a later date as well. There's just so much going on here.
There's a ton going on, and all the world truly is a stage, and everybody's playing along. This is just really concerning to me because they know so much, they know like the secrets, how to gather energy and make it work for them. I think that's what it's all about in the long run, is like gathering energy, knowing how to play in the ether, knowing how to do all of these rituals, because they do work. There's something to them. And I think we've been blocked from using them. They've set up the churches to make people who want to look at certain kinds of magic, they want to make them seem satanic or evil or wrong or bad, just anything to keep us from finding out the truth of how things really work.
Exactly. And I know so many people, I think the vast majority of people really do have the best wishes for their neighbors, for everyone around the globe. I don't think the masses want to conquer other people. I really don't think so. I think this is sowed in our consciousness. This division is cultivated. And also, things are so damn twisted. So purposely twisted, it makes it almost impossible to figure this out. And so, so many words have taken on different meanings from their original meaning. Like when we're talking about angel, it really means messenger. That's what it means, messenger. Yet, there is the Davic realm, where there are beings that are what we would call more like light beings and more what we would think of as angelic. And yet, when we look at Satan means adversary. It doesn't necessarily mean a guy with horns and a pitchfork that's going to stick a pitchfork in your butt and prod you to do evil things. However, we do have an adversary here, and the adversary is the ones that have been in charge, and the ones that are supposedly doing things for our own good, when really it's for their own good. As we know, this is part of what's going on now. People are being manipulated against each other, yet also, they are at the same time waking up too, and recognizing, we are being played for fools, and being pitted against each other. And so good to see all these familiar faces and names out there in the chat room. And Martin's asking a question about a 5-pointed star tattoo. Is it point up or point down? Because point up, is symbolic of spirit over matter. Point down is the opposite. So yeah, we need to recognize all these things. And when we look at the world, and I hate going into the muck and the mire, but we really do. We should take a peek at it here and there. And there's a lot of drama going on, and they're trying to get our emotions riled up. And again, it's all about getting us to be divided and fight amongst each other. Here you see how Zero Hedge, the FBI treating Epstein death as a criminal matter after guards were arrested. So federal prosecutors unsealed charges against 2 guards at U.S. jail in Lower Manhattan who were supposed to keep watch on financier Jeffrey Epstein. They're charged in New York with falsifying documents and conspiracy to defraud the U.S. And so, as we see, many people, there's even the term Epsteined now, to talk about somebody that, I guess I don't know how else to word it, but got suicided.
Suicided.
That's really, it's sad. Now, is he a nice guy? Hell no. But again, covering tracks, but maybe also intentionally covering tracks, doing something that's so just out there and obvious. And as we see here now, over here, Amnesty International says at least 106 killed in Iranian protests. Of course, Iran would say that, it's part of like a CIA plan to incite problems and unrest over there. And these alphabet soups do these type of things all the time across the globe.
They do. It's really sad all this stuff is happening because, I know, just like me, I know across the world there's another mom just like me who I wouldn't want anything bad to happen to. Yet, bad things are happening and it's not any of my doing and it wouldn't be any of that other common person's doing. But our governments come in and they cause these problems and we pay for it. That's the thing.
A long time ago when I was a teenager, I read a book, and it was about one Russian soldier's life and one German soldier's life in World War II. And so you're jumping back and forth between the two, and you get really pulled in to each one of them emotionally and their families because they're just nice people, And ultimately, it's one of those things where in the finale, one has to kill the other, and is horrible. It feels horrid about doing it. But doing it for the country and doing it, for his people and this and that. And we've been sold that type of mentality. And how many nice, people that are like your neighbors next door get sent off to fight in wars that are manufactured and end up damaging their souls and creating, if you believe in karma or the wheel of cause and effect, which I do, what it does is it keeps us in the loop. And that's how they know, they do this on purpose because they know we're going to be lowering each other's vibrations. We're going to be damaging each other's souls by going ahead and going off to war. We're taught that it's patriotic, but it's not when you get down to it. And we might have thought, well, the wars now are wars of profit. But before they were legit, and that's kind of what I had thought for a long time until I looked deeper. Thinking World War II was legit and World War I was legit. But when we see that they were still manufactured, that the U.S. knew Pearl Harbor was coming, and the driver took the Archduke down the wrong, street. That was on purpose. This is all a setup. And all that happens is that as each one of these wars goes on, you end up with the power being consolidated down into the hands of the few more and more. You end up with more war machinery, higher tech, the ability of the elites to basically control the masses with less and less actual physical soldiers. And eventually, they will all be totally unnecessary if they're not necessary now, because we're going to have drones and robotics that will do the job for them. You're going to see robot soldiers, go. Well, first you'll see robot policemen. We already have some. If you guys haven't seen it yet, there are some robot policemen out there already, and that's going to come in mass. And then, it's going to be a case that even if you are rising up and even if, the Second Amendment never gets taken away, it's not really going to matter, because the technology will be so much over on their side that, shooting bullets against robots is not going to do too much. Shooting bullets into the sky against drones is going to be kind of futile. And that's part of what we're heading towards right now. So maybe if we do get that big CME from the sun and it takes everything out, maybe that is a little divine intervention, frying the system, frying the means of control. And I've always thought that could be the case.
I've always kind of wanted that to happen in a weird way, that like we would have like an EMP and that would like fry AI or something like that. It'd be super inconvenient, and it might, I don't want anybody to get hurt though. That's the thing. I never want anyone to get hurt, but I do want things to be disabled, disarmed. It's only fair. I mean, we need an equalizer. It's like totally not fair what they're doing. And also another thing that these elites do, I think, is they know about astrology. So like when Mars is transiting the sun, things are going to heat up. So I do believe they use these little moments in time to try to ignite certain things and get things inflamed and going. Mars did just transit the sun not too long ago, maybe a month or two ago. Now we have all these fires, all these wars, but then again, it sort of kind of seems like we always have them anyway.
Yeah, most definitely. See, they follow all these things, and I actually think that they and a lot of people might not believe this, but I think they love to cultivate certain belief systems, as well as getting us thinking about that whole satanic thing. I think there's a cultivation of energy there that they feed off of when things are very uncomfortable and terrifying to us, And so I think that's all part of that plan as well. So you see, we were talking about the Iranian situation, Hong Kong. You see protesters set on fire by their own petrol bombs. There's so many videos showing the chaos all around the globe right now. And think about the size of the governments. Of course, we have the UN, the IMF. And a lot of people don't, recognize all the connections that go on. Like U.S. taxpayer dollars, so much of that goes to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, where it's then basically lended back out to people across the globe and yielding interest. So, the government, when we talk about the government, it's not what most people think. You guys understand. I know most of the people in the chat room understand. It's really, this is a corporate government when you get down to it. And the corporations are run by the bloodlines. And Satan runs the earth. Satan's the adversary. So if we truly say, Satan being, the original Hebrew means the adversary. Yeah, our adversary's been running this show, most definitely. And, some of them are human. Some of them are probably not Homo sapiens sapiens, and some of them are interdimensional, according to what I've seen and experienced as well.
Yeah, they are. And they, try to convince us either they're not here, or if they are here, you're bad for being able to see them. I do believe they cause a lot of trouble. I do see a lot in my mind's eye. And I kind of repressed that for most of my life. But now that I'm not in a situation where I'm repressing things, I'm starting to remember more, see more, and use that third eye muscle. And, then, and I do have a child that can see with her two eyes, I guess. I don't know how to put it, but she's seen these little things.
Three eyes.
She does. She sees with her third eye, with the other two eyes. It's really interesting. And she's seen these little things literally cause trouble, like shove papers off a kid's desk. And then another kid will turn around, accuse the other kid of shoving the papers off his desk and whack him one. And they sit back and then they kind of laugh and they suck off of that energy. So, if they're doing it in schoolhouses, they're doing it to us. So anything that can create a bad vibration or a bad feeling, you bet your bottom they are in on it.
Right. And, the big thing for us is to stay centered in basically our heart chakra, so stay centered in peace and compassion and go forward. So, I had a potential client reach out and wanted us to come and work on his wife, who has cancer that spread so far and wide, had chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery, and not old at all. I'd say early 50s, and unfortunately, they don't think she's going to make the 24 hours. So it's sad, but it's what we see in this toxic world, and with the system and everything going on. It's just so sad, and things don't have to be this way. They don't have to be this way, but we need to get them, as many people awake as possible, so we could get them out of the system, as we've said. And sure, we need to stay centered, heart-centered, not get pulled into the drama is what really I'm talking about, because we are going to see more drama. That's the thing too. We see drama around us all the time, and it's all around the globe, as you see here. The Bolivian coup. Now, this is out of Sputnik, so this is going to be the Russian point of view on things. Bolivian coup paves the way for U.S. offenses within Latin America. So says a Brazilian scholar. Now, we had talked about that, I think, 2 days ago. We were touching on the last live on the fact that there really is a strong play underway for the resources, because we are in a grand solar minimum, and I do think things are being enhanced, for lack of a better word. I think whatever is occurring naturally, it's hard to say exactly what's natural and exactly what's not, but there's a lot of manipulation going on. But the bottom line is, sure, there are countries and forces scrambling for resources. And so Latin America and Africa are loaded with resources that are going to be critical in the upcoming period. If we are going to have 80 years or more of colder and colder weather, with everything going on, people are going to grab resources. Now, another way to look at things, instead of stealing other people's resources, is just simply like what we were talking about yesterday too. And, putting greenhouses in Nebraska where you could grow citrus in Nebraska year round, and not just Nebraska. I mean, there's so much desert that is wide open, and we know over where we are here, you might not think there's a lot of water, but just under the surface there's a ton of water. There's vast reservoirs that could be tapped if we had the will. And again, with the discretionary budget, I think it was 61% of President Trump's discretionary budget was going to the military, 1% to, food and crops. And so while I know there's a lot of things and a lot of people, that feel that he is fighting the darkness, at the same time, there's a lot that's not being done and that could be done. And we really could. We could have such a utopia here if the will was here.
We could, and like I've been having this energy run through me lately, which is really beautiful. And I tend to think it's like Lakshmi, she's a just pure love, and that's the energy that I feel. And one of the things that came to me while I'm having this energy is whenever you react to something, just react in love, whatever that might look like, just react in love, no matter how nasty, no matter how brutal, no matter how unfair. The best way to react to things that you don't understand is with love. And when in doubt, be kind. And I think if we could all kind of take on more of that standing and more of that attitude, it would help spread. And I think over time we will. It's a matter of doing things like we're doing right now, like being online, being together, and supporting each other in this journey. A lot of us, I think, have been probably ostracized from our families, or they think we're crazy or this or that. And oh, thank you, Stephanie. You guys are so beautiful. It really warms my heart so much to come on here and just sort of talk with you guys. It's great. But yeah, I think over time we will. The word's going to get out. I don't know if any of you know much about Dolores Cannon, but she did talk about the 3 waves of volunteers coming in to help Mother Earth.
And that's what a lot of us are. And so Mars Fool's Gold makes a great statement. Exactly. 61% military, 7% VA, and all those soldiers that thought they were doing a good thing, or maybe they thought they couldn't do anything else, and that was the only way they were going to get ahead in life. And, that are permanently, fighting issues, mental and physical. That's a lot of money that could be used for Ice Age farming, for sure. For sure. Again, we have the ability to do amazing things. It's just, again, it's so obvious to me that the manipulation is so strong and so rampant. And, it's done through selling us things like pride. It's all done ego-based, And as we recognized, little kids, I pledge allegiance to the flag. You just say these things mindlessly. You sing the Star-Spangled Banner, right? And you don't even know at that age that Francis Scott Key was a 33rd degree Mason, right. And, maybe you grew up in Utah. Some of our friends are over in Utah or over here in the West. And, you're found, you don't recognize that the founder of Mormonism, again, 33rd degree Mason, the founder of Jehovah's Witnesses, 33rd degree Mason, Charles Darwin giving us his version of evolution, which, is not exactly accurate, 33rd degree Mason. Again, there's all this is all about divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. That's what's going on here. And again, as Soul Reviver has been talking about, we have to each work on ourselves internally. But it's a lot of our jobs here. We come here with a purpose, I really, really believe. And a lot of us, we just came here to wake up other people, because we have to get people recognizing that they're being manipulated. And the only way you could stop the matrix and the machine is to actually get people to realize they're in it in the first place, as we have 222 watching, 222 right there at that timing on that statement. And so how long can leaderless movements last is the question out of the Atlantic. And this is a quote from Lao Tzu. A leader is best when the people barely know he exists. And that's out of the Tao Te Ching. And yeah, very true. But do we have any leaders like that in the world now? Well, not in the bigger countries, that's for sure. And again, this is going and talking about Hong Kong, Chile, Iraq, Lebanon, France. It goes on and on. Bolivia, Indonesia. Don't forget about Libya as well, because I was covering more of the political stuff in the past there too, and Libya is another one, and again, tremendous oil reserves, and yeah, there are factions within the puppet masters that are vying against each other, and they use just us as their fodder, cannon fodder. How many of you guys remember that term, cannon fodder? And it's very true. So many pawns.
there are so many puns, and I think it's just really unfair that before, like, you don't know what you don't know. So growing up, you admire the adults in your life, and you listen to your mom and dad, and you want to do right by them. You want to make them proud. And if they're singing the Star Spangled Banner because they don't know any better, well, you're going to do it, and you're going to be proud of it. And if anybody comes and tries to tell you, hey, look, this is the wrong thing to do, or not tell you that's the wrong thing to do, but if anyone tries to point certain truths out to you that might discolor what you look up to, then you're going to be defensive of that. That's why I think it needs to be broken down in layers.
Most definitely. Yeah. So it's a process. And here we see over here, they have different causes and aims, but mass protests from Iran to Hong Kong accelerate. And, it's true. It's just going and ramping up. So, there's some interesting dates, and we touched on 2024, 2025, and we touched on, what does it mean from Deagle.com, which shows pretty much all the NATO countries losing huge amounts of population. And, everybody has their thoughts on that. Some people say, well, it's got to be related to the weather, the earth changes and stuff. But, why would that be the case? Or even food, why would that be the case? And Russia doesn't lose any population, or China doesn't lose any population. India doesn't lose any population. India has had tremendous earth changes going on, tremendous floods. So there's something else there going on. And it's, again, part of this bigger plan. It's part of the plans to sow dissension, to change the status quo. And I feel it's part of the big clampdown. It's part of, like, where we go from the illusion of freedom to there's no more illusion at all. And John C. says, don't worry, it's the beginning of change. Yeah, I'm not worried, because, I feel like I came into this life, and this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing and supposed to be here. So, if somebody takes me out with a bullet sometime, then, well, it's just, I was doing my job, and, I'm here trying to wake people up. And I feel like I've lived before, and I'm not afraid of the other side, because I experience it so much. I experience the different energy bodies that I recognize, completely. This is just a shell. So there's no fear. Not that you would want to be somebody that would be tortured in a dungeon somewhere. Of course, that wouldn't be pleasant. But no fear of the other side at all, because I've always seen spirits. I've always seen things. I've always experienced basically the fact that reality is just, it's not just this body. It's way, way more from that. So it doesn't bother me at all. I just know that this is what bothers me is the manipulation of the populations, the people of the world, and the lack of respect for the earth itself, and viewing the earth as something that's just to be used and abused. And same thing with all the creatures on the earth, with no appreciation and thanks. And the system, the system and the greed, those are the things that really get to you. Well, they get to me.
Yeah, no, it does get to you, being in this, meat suit and stuff, and you have to, like, feel these emotions. And I know it's a journey, and it's a journey about growth and knowing yourself and understanding. And but it does get to you, like, all the surrounding stuff that goes on, because it does affect people on your outer world. Like, we all still have to go to the grocery store and deal with that cranky person who still watches the news because they're not awake. So I think for me, to wake people up, it's a safety thing for me, because I've been hurt so badly by people who are asleep, or maybe, so, my friend, I've shared this before. I had a very dear friend for 25 years, and she had some problems, and I was taking her to the doctor asleep the whole time, and not knowing that I was killing her. I didn't know the prescription drugs were so bad for her. She did pass away. And, that's what it took to wake me up. And I had such high regard for these doctors. And I always thought, well, you got to do exactly what the doctor says because they're a professional. You're not. What are you? You're just a lowly person and you're not educated in this stuff at all. Now I realize that's all pure BS. And if I can help one other person on their journey, help wake you up and let you know if you're having troubles, there's so many ways to deal with things rather than, running through the medical system, because I think they created like a net to catch people who have certain problems when they're really just ascension symptoms. There's nothing wrong with you. You're a special divine being, and embrace your emotions, whatever those emotions are. They're very important. We need to honor them, not medicate them.
Yeah, most definitely. So that's again another part of the system. I mean, how many people are ruined by these prescription drug addictions? And they are, in my opinion, it's part of the system that numbs us down and opens us up to control by dark forces. It's true. Sandra says she believes angels are among us to help us ascend. I agree, and I do. I have felt some amazingly positive energies, amazingly beautiful positive energies, and not just energies like that just from the Judeo-Christian tradition, because I don't think there's a lock on it. And I know a lot of people will differ with that. But, after reading the Bhagavad Gita and going into so much of the Eastern philosophies, and I've actually been visited in meditation by a being that I believe was Guru Nanak, who founded Sikhism as well. I think there's a lot of benevolent beings out of all traditions. I don't think they just come out of one tradition. I think that's part of the big plan, but the dark side is to get us divided so that we think that there's only one tradition that all the benevolent beings come out of, and that's our tradition. And then they do that, perhaps to people of all different traditions, so we don't recognize, hey, there is a light team, a positive team out there, but we're suspicious of each other, and you should judge them by their fruit and by their vibration. And it's very, very easy to feel the energy now, to me anyway, and I know Cindy too, and many of you guys. It's very, very easy to feel the energy of a person and of even our leaders. We could sense their energies very clearly. And so, this is it's getting easier, really, and clearer, I feel, to know right off the bat, what is of love and what is of division, and the opposite side.
It is, it's bittersweet because I'm getting more and more sensitive. So I tend to take in a lot of energy, feel a lot of energy, and I'm working on like making more of a shield so that I'm not so affected. But yeah, it's getting easier. Like when a person walks in a room, I'm affected on my vibration. It's going to pick up anything that goes against my current vibration. I'm going to feel that. And most of the time it's not very comfortable.
Most definitely. And, so John and Fifth World were talking about God being here. Yeah, I mean, I believe that's just, we have the divine spirit all within us. It's just a matter of tapping into it. How do we tap into it? We hold a certain vibration, one of love and one of unity and compassion for each other, and not allowing ourselves to be pulled into the division, not allowing ourselves to start judging others, though perhaps I'm judging the powers that be, and I recognize I am judging them, and it's easy to judge them when you get down to it, but you recognize that they're all pawns too, in a sense. And again, in some ways, they're bringing us realizations of how not to do something. If we're going to move forward, they've been a wonderful example of what we should avoid. And, and thus it shows us what we need to cultivate in order to change things.
We do, and everything is an example, if nothing else. If you see something you don't like, it can be used as an example. So with that, Yeah, it's really important to look at things around us and not necessarily judge, but use those things to help us. I can't
Help us grow,
help us grow. Yeah, yeah.
So Martin says, love the love, but protect. As nice don't mean walk over kindness, can be mistaken for weakness. So, he's basically saying don't let people walk all over you. And so if we look at the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna talking to Arjuna, and really I shared with you guys before, when I read that the first time, I was probably about 20, 21, and so I was reading it as a born again Christian at that point. I wasn't really sold on the born again thing, but I was doing it. It just didn't feel right to me. It felt like it was incomplete. But at the same time, there were wonderful people and that we were involved with, and having Bible studies and get-togethers and sharing meals, and a beautiful sense of family and belonging, which was wonderful. So I loved it. I enjoyed it. But then when I read the Gita, I felt like Christ was talking through this too, and it was like, I just felt like, oh my God, this is the same sort of positive energy coming through. And one of the things that's there is the fact that, he basically says, as much as we want it to be a perfect world, this world is a world of duality right now, and we're in it. We have to work towards the unity. We can rise above. Individually, we could rise above and out. I think we can ascend individually. But then I think there's beings that are here to help the collective ascend, as many as possible, to go into a higher state of consciousness. And so perhaps, that whole theory of ascended masters, there are those that either come back, they've perhaps already done it all they had to do, but they come back down into this realm to try to help others lift themselves up. And I think that's what's going on with a lot of us. So while we're in this realm, we have to recognize that we are being attacked. However, if we just lash back out of, anger and violence, then are we really raising vibrations as well? So it's a very, very tricky thing. And if you look at the teachings of Christ, and I do believe we are, I think one of the wisest things we can do is to embrace Christ's consciousness itself and emulate what he showed as an example, as well as others, with the wisdom of Lao Tzu and Buddha, and then others as well, like Guru and Nanak, and the whole thought of ahimsa, doing no harm first and foremost. We don't want to stain ourselves. We don't want to pull ourselves down, and that's the big trick here, and yeah, we can move mountains. It's connecting to that source within, which, like we did mantras yesterday, and Cindy's like, the one I feel the most is the one where we're connecting to our higher self and directly to source. So I think that's part of the movement now, is really going to be one where we take back our individual power, but in doing so, we recognize the underlying unity, and also that will be empowering for the masses. And we could get out of this matrix that they have us trapped in, of constantly fighting each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we sort of kind of try to stay centered in understanding that life is a journey and we are here to learn, so looking at all of our experiences as a learning experience and beneficial to our growth, then, it's harder to get angry that way. If you've been treated bad or if you've been abused, a lot of times, you can look back on that and say, wow, I learned this, or, what I'd like to do is turn it and help other people. If I can help other people, based on things that have happened to me, then that makes it all well worth it. And I'd do it again too, for any single one of you, I would.
And so it's just me and Cindy Stack right now, although we will have some guests coming on with us as we move forward. I have a couple in mind. So really what I want to get across to you guys and to everybody is, what's coming is probably going to come to many of our neighborhoods, and we're going to be seeing things happen. And we must not allow ourselves to be pulled down, because that's what they really want, and when the shit really hits the fan home, close to home, because there's so much going on all around the globe. And I know Dave is out there, brother Dave over in the UK, and he's been keeping me up somewhat on Brexit. I really find the whole UK political system very confusing, and I'm sure the American system is confusing as well to others. But this is a global thing, and I think that these protests that we're seeing around the globe, they're going to accelerate. And as we started out earlier, we talked about this, a fear-mongering simulation that predicts 32 dead and 200 wounded on Election Day 2020. I think it could actually be worse than that, depending on how things go with the impeachment. The way I look at it is that it's kind of going to always seem to be the thing that's going to rile up the most people is probably going to be what happens, because that's really the primary goal.
Yeah, it's to create the loosh, to create the fear so they can sit back and eat off of it.
Exactly. And so yesterday we did food shopping, and we went and hit our favorite Indian buffet, and we were watching them talking about this. Now, Russia slams U.S. backing for Israeli settlements as new dangerous escalation. And so the Trump administration reversing Obama administration's approach towards Israeli settlements. To me, I look at all that. Now, some will say, okay, well, there's a lot of different ways of looking at this. Some will say, Obama was a traitor, and he wasn't ever, even American. He was born in Kenya. And then, others will say the Trump administration is just a puppet of Israel. I kind of look at it like, what they're trying to do is, they're trying to, well, we're a ping pong ball. We're getting hit one side and then hit back the other side. It's just a ping pong ball going back and forth. And when you look at the Obama administration and the Trump administration, they appear to be the exact opposite of each other. I think that's done to inflame both parties. We had, the nightmare of one political ideology in office, and then now we have the nightmare of the other political ideology in office. And I think that's done purposefully because, I don't really view that there are any free elections. That's just my opinion. I think it's all a setup, honestly.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's, more talking heads and stuff. It's more of the same thing where, all the world's a stage and these guys are the players and they just happen to have really good scripts and they have a lot of money. So they get to play with more toys and hurt more people.
Yes. And so Emperor Rex, corporations are outside the republic. It's a democracy. Well, the corporations run everything. The whole lobbying system is a joke, because everybody's bought off. By the time you get to the highest levels, they're bought off. And that's really what we got. And, it's so intertwined. It is so intertwined. And let's see over here. Pope suddenly replaces top Vatican financial regulator in developing mystery scandal. If I wish and I hope that all this will be revealed, and I'm sure it will be in time, as this is the great apocalypse, right? Which is the great unveiling. And I've done so many videos that show the riches of the Christian, the Catholic Church. And I know there's those that don't believe Catholicism is true Christianity. I don't think we really have true Christianity. I think it was wiped out back in the Council of Nicaea, honestly. I think you have to go into some of the other texts that were all burned to find true Christianity. Because if true Christianity ruled the world, we wouldn't have this situation. And obviously it doesn't. And when we look at the wealth of the Catholic Church, and we recognize that Christ, he probably owned literally nothing. And he even told people, well, if you want to really do the best job you can, just sell everything, give it to the poor, and follow me. Trust. And I don't see them doing that, not with all their pomp, their circumstance, their gold jewelry, all the mysteries that they have hidden and buried down in the Vatican walls, as well as the secrets of past civilizations. They know. Anytime there were, bodies of giants dug up or anything that would give us ideas, the Smithsonian or the Vatican, these outfits step in and quickly and quietly bury it. And so, as we know, I can't wait for all this to be revealed and the masses to see, and there's a lot of prophecies too about, the leveling of Rome, earthquakes, the city on 7 hills. We've touched on that before too. Isn't it pretty fascinating that Rome is a city on 7 hills, just like, Revelation talks about? But you know what? So is DC, and so is London, and so is Jerusalem. So it's really interesting to look at all these things. There's this huge, huge subterfuge going on at the most major level. Kenny's talking about the kids, and, that could bring both of us to tears. It's just horrible what's going on. And I do think that they're, again, creating loosh in that sense, because it's just atrocious what's been done. And these people that feel like they are so above the law. Here you see shameful U.S., and this is out of RT, so again, this is the Russian side. Shameful U.S. withholds food and medicine from Iranians while claiming to support them. And, the war on terror, I told you guys before, on a conservative view, they were saying that there's at least 800,000 killed since 9/11 on the war on terror. But I think you could times that by at least 3 to 5 times if you're going to get down to the real number. And think again of all that loosh that was created, from the war on terror, from the acts of 9/11, with, obvious, to many, obvious setup. When we look at PNAC, Project for a New American Century, saying that there needs to be some sort of new 9/11 event to, solidify public support for these wars that are coming. It's just so horribly obvious.
It is. And, I've seen this. I don't know how many people listen to David Icke, but there is a paper that went out about, certain countries that they wanted to take over, and we needed a new Pearl Harbor, and everything just lined up perfect for 9/11. And now look, it's a lot of loosh, it's a lot of money, and it's a lot of hatred, it's a lot of division. And these people know what they're doing. I think it's super important we band together and do just the opposite and help each other go within and learn the truth, act out of love, teach our children that not everything in school is golden. What I think is so sad is what they do to our children in school, because they teach them certain things and tell them, this is certain fact and this is God's truth, and and you better do this and learn it right and get a good grade and all these things. And then a couple years later, all the information they've been taught has been changed and they've been brainwashed, and it's just not fair. So the whole system, I think it's important to talk to our kids and tell them, look, school, we got to get through it. This is sort of a formality. At least I think it is, because a lot of things are not true. And just do your best, but don't hang your hat on it. Don't put your ego on it. Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, what it is memorizing the lies given to us by the victors that are rewriting the history of what actually happened. And, that's what it is. And then even when we talk about things like science, it gets rewritten all the time. And that's why, honestly, I trust what's in basically a lot of the Eastern philosophies as well as the mystery traditions way more, because I do think that there is a lineage that's given to us that comes out of leftover knowledge from past civilizations, perhaps Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, and the like. But really go deeper. You have to go within too. And I think that's the key, is going within and, getting our answers directly from source, which, We can. We don't need to go through any priest. We don't need to go through any organization. We don't need to tithe them money. We don't need to be controlled by them, which is what they've done for thousands of years. And, again, when we're talking about Satan, in my opinion, it's not a single individual. It's the system that we are in. And there are many individuals that are, quote unquote, Satan, which, again, means the adversary. So, in my opinion, it's the forces that are adversarial to the forces of unity. So it's the forces of dissension, the forces of violence, the forces that feed off of the negative energies of the world and keep us separated. Because we actually, in my opinion, we don't need any dogma. Just go within. It's just that simple. And I think we've been controlled by dogma. It's very sad, but when you look at the history of the world, it's pretty obvious. Scottish MEP quits Brexit Party to sit as an independent. Perhaps what's coming is a big breaking up, and perhaps what's coming is a necessary breakup, which I agree with. I think it's harder for the few to control the masses if there's say 1,000 tiny countries, each independent doing their own thing, than it is creating these big blocks like the European Union, the United States, the Russian Federation, or what have you, the old Soviet Union. It's way easier to control if there's less, if there's less chance. If there's more, it's way easier to control if there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different groups to control. But if we all broke down into like individual states, what if the U.S. became 50 states, and maybe even like California became 3 different states? Because it's so large and it has different, different philosophies depending on where you're at. It would be way tougher for them to control things. And perhaps that's why there's this push again. Order out of chaos, new world order, one world government. We've all talked about this. Bill says the Antichrist personal is a bullshit script. We've been living under the Antichrist. And actually, I agree, because I have a couple of good friends that, are telling me Jared Kushner is the Antichrist and this and that. I think we're always looking. I think we get sidelined looking for these things that they put in, because they want us, to go looking down a rabbit hole that leads to nowhere. It leads to absolutely nowhere. They create these rabbit holes for us to waste our time on, as we got 222 watching again. See, so I think that's a signal to me that, this is, again, on the right track. They create these rabbit holes that go nowhere. So we'll be divided and we'll be spiraling down again. And so Fifth World says Lucifer is incarnated. It's not who you think again. Lucifer, the light bringer. Some people equate Lucifer with Venus. Again, and some people even equate Lucifer with Christ. And of course others view it as the fallen angel. But Lucifer and Satan are thought to be 2 different things. But again, I feel like those are rabbit holes that just get us arguing about semantics instead of actually changing ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's most important to go within and, treat our planet with love and respect, and as well as ourselves. And, as we cultivate that love on the inside, it starts to show on the outside too. As above, so below, as within, so without. How do you treat other people is probably going to have something to do with how do you treat yourself. And I really think that we all have an inner child that we need to attend to. Did you see everything is, we were just talking about that Indigo Scorpio yesterday, how everything is inverted, everything is reversed, everything's inside out. And I do talk about the upside down and the in between. There's these places that I go when I do mantras and meditate. And I do believe they're there. I can't quite articulate them, but it's funny you bring that up. We were just talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Melissa White, is making a statement that I'll show it. But I don't totally agree with it. So I feel like that's divisive. I don't think it's any one race that's raped the planet. I think that's what they want you to think. They want to sow the seeds of dissension. It's really it's the families, the bloodlines, the same beings that have given us this Babylonian money matrix. And perhaps, there is that genetic seed in many of us that is part of their lineage. We don't know the exact picture. Some of us think we know everything down to a T. Some of us are entirely convinced I have the complete picture. I know every little detail, but I don't think anybody knows every little detail. But yet, without a doubt, the main thing is recognizing the division, and we get past the division because that's how they are, controlling us. As Mars Fullgold says, good direction like herding cats. That's what they do. They herd us into these groups. They want us to be divided. They want race riots. They love that stuff. They love it. It's just more opportunity for them to take more of our power, our rights away. More of a reason to have, martial law, police on the street. There was reports of, as we got to 222 again, look at that, 222 again is coming up. There were reports of why do they have like a million 9mm bullets for the post office, stocked away, things like that. It's things that make you scratch your head. And they are militarizing the police departments. The police departments are being completely militarized. And, so that just saying says a Christian shouldn't have a firearm. Our weapons are Ephesians 6:12, the armor of the Spirit and all that. If you really look at it, Christ never, ever, ever advocated violence. Never. So it's one of those things. Yeah.
It is one of those things. I think it's like really important. I mean, going within, and don't be divisive. At least do your best, and to try to learn to be like water. Be malleable, be flexible with everything. Try to find the good. If you see something that you don't like, well, try to travel the route where you can glean the good out of that.
Yeah, and so Melissa says, because the war is on us. It really is. It's on all of us, though. It's on humanity in general. Yet I agree, what I have seen in some of these police video cams, I just don't know how people get away with this stuff. But at the same time, I recognize that when we see these horrible, atrocious acts committed by so-called, serve and protecting individuals, law enforcement, I think a lot of times they're being MK Ultra'd is really what I think. They're being MK Ultra'd because, and if you guys don't understand what that means, I think there's a lot of mind control going on. I think a lot of these things are done completely on purpose to fuel the fires of hatred and division. And that's really what's going on. They want to sow that. So we are spiritual beings. So in my point of view, I might have a car that's, a Chevy one time, and then it might be a Ford, and it might be a Honda, and it might be a Subaru. The body is nothing but just a vehicle. In my opinion, it's a vehicle. So I don't give a lot of importance to it as far as that. But then as far as being an object that could divide us, but I do give importance to treating it right, most definitely. Like Cindy and I, we work out every day, like beasts lately, honestly. And we're careful about what we eat. And, we also do practice our meditation, QiGong, and spiritual practices on a daily basis. There's maybe some days we don't do everything, but we always do some things every single day. We spend like hours every day in self-cultivation because, you should. You're important. And, you have to take care of your temple.
You do, and the more you take care of your body, your temple, the more you're going to be able to do to help other people. It goes back to loving yourself. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I didn't understand how important my body was when I was younger. I mean, I was horrible. I ate all kinds of processed food and sugar, and I used to be on prescription medication. I mean, I was a mess. I was a wreck. And I couldn't figure out why am I so depressed? And, looking back now, it's like sugar lowers your vibration. Prescription meds, they lower your vibration. All those processed food lower your vibration, and you stack years and years onto that. And oh yeah, totally into plant medicine. Absolutely, Mr. Floyd. I love plant medicine, any kind. I don't think Mother Nature can really go wrong. I think the Native Americans had a lot of good stuff going on. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, especially in its natural form. Now, here they have these cannabis shops, so I don't know how I feel about how they treat them, how they grow them. Are they GMO'd? I don't know. But I think probably the best way, if you can grow your own plants, that's what I would do. But yeah, it's important to treat our bodies because, once we get rid of the sugar, once we get rid of certain other things, then your vibration can go up and the depression will go away. Because I was on medicine for like 20 years. They got me when I was really young to try to squash my vibration. I'm just now understanding how powerful I am.
Yeah, and there was a comment in there about the fact that only like a portion of us is in this body, and I do believe that's true as well. Because Dan's Dark Crusher said it. We are a bit a vessel, and that vessel only contains a small part of our total being. We're very powerful. Yes, we are. Without a doubt, I agree totally. Hey, Craig, good to see you in there, brother. That's a big truth, because I think when we can pull in more and more of our higher self, then we are really starting to actualize change in this dimension, and it's so critical for us to listen to that higher self. And so this is part of the conditioning, and this is part of the thing that I think we need to wake up so many. I mean, why do people blindly trust things that they did not witness themselves, did not experience themselves, when we know history is written by the victors? How do you know anything that we are told is real unless you're getting that from going within? That's critical, and I don't understand why some could be totally on board with not trusting a lot of it, like obviously knowing the media is biased, obviously knowing the political system is BS, but yet taking other things that are given to us that we have no verifiable evidence of and trusting it. Again, without that going within.
Yeah, that's like the most important thing. I mean, I struggled for all of those years. What I think part of it, though, is my emotions are so strong. I didn't understand that I was supposed to honor my emotions, honor my body, honor my temple. And if I had have known that from the start, then I would not have had such a rough road. But then again, I think I'm here to help people. I think I'm here to say, hey, love yourself, appreciate your emotions. Listen to them. They're your guideposts. They keep you safe. They're here for a reason. And ask, why am I feeling like this? Get curious about yourself. Try to figure yourself out. I know for me, probably the number one thing was to get off of the sugar. That probably helped. Well, and the meds too.
So, Bill says, no prescriptions for me at 55, and I'll be 55 next year. And no prescriptions for me either. I haven't taken an antibiotic in over 20 years. I haven't needed to. If anything ever starts to feel like it's coming in, we take some colloidal silver. Just natural stuff, all natural. But again, if your Wei Qi is strong, and your Wei Qi is the external Qi force field around your body, you won't really get sick. Now, for guys, if you have a lot of nookie, Could lower your Wei Qi, just telling you. And that's why there's actually techniques in Tantra to abstain from that, but still experience the good stuff. So that's a totally different topic. But as far as what Bill was saying there, I'm totally on board with you. And really what did it for me was actually getting Lyme's disease and going down the alternative route, because I admit I was working for a pharmaceutical company, and it's like I was approached to go and work for this company, and at the time I was working jobs that weren't cutting it. I was actually working 2 jobs, working a night shift, and I was working a miserable night shift, and then I was also working in a gym and training people and things during the day. So I got approached with an opportunity to make a lot of money, and I had 2 family members that were working for this company, and so I took it, and great benefits and all that. But it was so coincidental. I don't believe in coincidences at all. That I got sick with Lyme's, and one of the main venues for this company was trying to help people with Lyme's, but giving them antibiotics, big time antibiotics like Vanco and Rocephin, things like that. And looking at their cases, they weren't getting better. The vast majority of them were not getting better. So it hit me like a ton of bricks, and immediately I just was like, I'm not going down that route. So I contacted a naturopath who was a doctor of Chinese medicine, an acupuncturist, and a herbologist. She was a massage therapist, all wrapped up in one, and she taught me a ton and just set me off on this path. And it was something that had to happen. It was just something that had to happen, because when I was working for that company too, I was seeing how the pharmacists, and there was a couple of pharmacists in there that I really respected, very, very intelligent guys. And so I had to ask them, would you do it? If you had cancer, would you do chemotherapy? And these are pharmacists that are, writing the prescriptions. And they were like, I don't think so. So, I mean, that told me a lot. That really told me a lot. And, I ended up leaving the company when I moved down south, and left the area as well. As Bill says, he'd never had a flu shot, and I wouldn't either. That's just my personal opinion. Again, everybody has to come up to their own, decision. Planetary protector, good to see you, brother. But, this is all part of this matrix that we're in. A big part of this matrix. Balance, yes. Balance in life is the key to good health. And so what we've been doing is actually cycling what we're doing. We go through periods of a lot of fasting and purging. And then we go through periods where we're hitting it hard. And, honestly, I was telling Cindy today, it's like, ooh, I am feeling so strong now, because we have been working out really hard, and it's starting to feel good. Honestly, at 54, I don't feel much different, and I actually feel better than I did in my early 30s. Better, and I think we can. I think 50s are like the new 30s, 70s are the new 50s. And you even see women and gentlemen in their 90s and 100s now that still get around pretty damn good.
We do. We just saw that lady who was 103 at the gym. She goes there every Friday, not just to exercise, but she talks with people, and it's really super nice. And, I think that probably now that I've been exercising and I dropped all the sugar, processed foods, and all of that stuff, I feel almost as good as I did when I was in my early 20s. Honestly, I do. I feel super good. So I know that there's something to the fasting that we do. I know that eats like a whole lot of bad stuff, and, just drop the processed foods and drop the sugar. And it's so hard to do. Oh my gosh, it's so hard for me to do. but I did it, and I've overcome other addictions too, like smoking. I've been a mess, but hey, I traveled this path to help somebody else. That's my honest opinion.
And that's what it is. So often people that become healers, they have a health crisis. They go through it, they understand it, and then they want to help others. It's just really that simple. And so this gets me sick to see, royal family biographer defends Prince Andrew, and you could see the statement, and people that think they're above the law, and that's what these people think, these families, these powers that be. And again, when we're seeing the royal family and we're seeing the Red Shields, the Rockefellers, we're seeing a lot of these different names. They're not the top of the heap. They're not the eye on the pyramid. They're a notch down below that. There are other entities that are higher up, but it's just absolutely disgusting what happens. Disgusting. And so here's a statement. Do you guys agree with this? No one needs to be a billionaire. So says Britain's Labour Party. What do you guys think? Should there be billionaires? Is it okay for somebody to have the wealth of a George Soros, a Jeff Bezos? We could go on and naming these people. Is that okay? Is that all right? I wouldn't want it, because I would feel if you're not doing good with it, it's incurring tremendous negative karma. I really do. That's just the way I view it. And No Thanks says money needs to be done away with. I agree. They control us through money. They keep us working, with our heads down, looking straight ahead through the system. So I think the whole monetary system needs to go away. I had that conversation with one of our family members here, and that family member is a person that has assets of considerable means. So obviously they disagree.
Right. Yeah. I think right now, though, that we have to look at money as an energy exchange. And maybe if we can look at it that way, we're not looking at it with any negative connotations to it. I think that's important too. There needs to be energy exchange. If you do something for somebody, you need to get something back. And that's what we have right now. I think that's what we need to use. But there's nothing wrong with trying to inch away from that. If at all possible, when possible, please do move away from it. I used to have addiction nasal spray. After I changed to almost vegan, my nasal passage open, and I do not need it anymore. They live too. Yeah. I believe that there's so many things, like fasting is so good for you, and dropping the sugar is so good for you. It can heal almost anything, and fasting for 3 days can completely reset your metabolism, 100% reset. And I would suggest, if you're a woman and doing it, though, you go to, what's her name, Mindy Pell's website.
Yeah, Mindy Pell's, and then she's very good, and then Thomas DeLauer is fabulous. He's really good as well. It's interesting to see, like, Joffrey shares that he makes maybe $18K a year, and yet he's a Patreon, supporting. So you see that. You see a lot of times the most giving people are the ones that have absolutely, not that much to give. And that's beautiful, because it tells you where your heart's at. And it's all about, showing love and compassion. And No Thanks had said, again, barter and trade. I agree. So much of this has come through the banking system, and the bankers. And we talked about, somebody had said up there, Albert Pike, I think it wasn't Bill, maybe it was Stack. I always find it a coincidence that Albert Pike came out with his statement of 3 world wars back in 1871. We had the Great Chicago Fire, where people saw UFOs shooting lasers down at the ground, 1871. We had the Banking Act of 1871, which effectively hijacked the country after it was, left in financial shambles because of the Civil War. And in my opinion, Civil War was another one that was a false flag event, all about consolidating power. And, this country was founded on libertarian ideals. At least it was, verbalized that they were libertarian ideals, small, if not minuscule, government as far as federal government. And the federal government's massive. And it's getting more massive all the time. And this is not the way it's been, but our Bill of Rights have been hijacked one president at a time. All these executive orders, we don't even, most people don't even notice what goes on. And they've all kept pushing the agenda of taking away liberties. And it's just part of what's been going on. And Bible says, do not worship false idols. But then perhaps we're led to, worshiping false idols at the same time. And so maybe we shouldn't really worship anything, but just hold simply a feeling, a vibration of love, gratefulness, and compassion. And maybe we need to get out of that worship whole frame of mind. I think that's part of what's been used to control us. Kingship came on down from on high. If you look farther back, the ancient Sumerians believed the gods were right there with them. And so who were these gods? Were they aliens? Were they perhaps leftovers of, people that had gone inside the earth from Atlantis or other civilizations and didn't lose their knowledge and came back out and took advantage of others to become the rulers and the kings? And they appeared godlike because they had knowledge of higher technologies. And so we can't acknowledge that there is a creator. There's most definitely, if we look at the way the universe is constructed, it appears that there's obviously intelligent, construction there. But it doesn't mean necessarily that it has to be any one dogmatic point of view as to who that creator is, and then there's multiple creators too, like the ones that played with our DNA and changed our DNA. And, it's okay. So yeah, I'm not going to digress too much on that, but again, people need to do their own thinking. People need to do their own research. I would encourage everybody to not just blindly believe what you were taught. As one of the things that Buddha said is question everything. Don't accept anything because your parents taught you it, because they might have been misled themselves and they accepted something as a truth when it's really not a truth. And so again, we have to go within, judge for ourselves after we basically look at the whole situation. And so check out this guy. This is a human-faced monkey that can't get a girlfriend. Yes, I don't know why. And do you think he's human-faced? He has some pretty interesting expressions there.
He is human-faced for sure. He's a cute guy. Not as cute as you.
I think he's cuter.
No.
Hey, look at that. He looks very perplexed. What he's saying is, I can't believe you guys are falling for this. I can't believe that you are. How can you guys believe all this political BS? That's what he's saying. He's like, I just can't understand it. Why don't you guys get it? And did you guys see this? This is really curious. Now, what do you think? What do you think? Does that look just alike? So we have Greta Thunberg over here at right. Now, she's the one that has spoken up and become such a political activist at a young age. On the left here, you have a picture of a girl that was taken 121 years ago. And some are saying that she's a time traveler. She came here to help our planet out. And some are saying, it's a reincarnation thing. What do you think? So on the left here, this is a young girl who looks so much like the 16-year-old Swedish climate change activist. This photo was taken in Yukon in Canada in 1898. What do you guys think of that?
If that's not DNA memory, I don't know what is. That's really, really close. I mean, if you did an overlay, I don't think there would be any very much difference. Maybe a tiny bit in the lips, but the eyes are kind of like almond shaped, tilted. The nose, the eyebrows, the hair. I mean, everything.
Okay, so we have some people saying that she's a clone. Maybe she is. I think the technology's been there for a very long time. I think there's so much technology, it would blow our minds away if we knew the real situation. It really would. It would blow our minds away.
Yeah, absolutely. I do believe that they know a lot of things that we don't, and therein lies the unfairness. But it's okay though, because our time is coming, and I think it's more important to have a good heart than a lot of money and be a jerk.
Exactly. And so many people are saying she's an Illuminati agent and a plant. And I wouldn't doubt anything. I always look at everything with kind of a cynical eye and say, what's the bigger picture here? What's really going on?
I know, right? She's not the only picture I've seen of that. I've seen other movie stars that maybe they are time travelers, maybe they're clones. So this is kind of common.
Yeah, I think I saw Matthew McConaughey. I'm trying to think of some others, but yeah, there's actually been a handful.
Yeah.
I can think of that looked identically. This is a big stage. Most definitely, it's a big stage.
It is. It's huge, and it's entertaining too. It depends on what do you want to bring in for entertainment. I think we need to be well-rounded and balanced, and not get too deep into the news or take too much stock into the news. We need to be aware. At the same time, we still need to keep our hearts with love and not be angry.
So guys, as always, I want to thank you guys for participating, and we will be seeing you guys tomorrow. We'll probably shoot for the same time, either at this time or I think it's good to go 5 p.m. Pacific, so 8 p.m. Eastern seems to be a time when we could get a lot of people as well to join in. Anybody that's so inclined, I would welcome you to come and join us on Patreon. There's some videos that go up there that don't get put up on this venue, and it could help support the channel, keep us going in these times. Also, Ko-Fi is an option as well. And then also make sure that you're subscribed to EE Arts as well, our second channel. So thank you guys for for sharing all your opinions. You know what? It's beautiful that we could agree to disagree on some things. And you know what? We did it nicely today. We really did. I mean, there really was not a lot of dissension in there. There's some differences of opinion.
We played very nice today. Very proud of everybody. Thank you.
It is. There's an awful lot of love in this family, and that's beautiful. There is, without a doubt, strength in diversity, and we can have our unity and still recognize that each one of us is just a totally distinct individual, different aspect of source, and we're all on this ride together. So much love, my friends. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.